And of course, it did it again. I got used to buttons. So I said, I got my birthday flowers. I had my cupcake. I had my lunch. I have my tea. Got my popcorn. Got my nuts. Got my coffee. I'm ready to go. Okay, so while we're waiting, we're going to go through some comments. I went ahead and hopped on early because, oh my gosh, y'all. Ooh, doggy, Long Crime Network. We've got a lot of comments. Where what I want to start is all right, Pam Coggin. All I know is that as an older person, hearing people coming around my house in the middle of nowhere many times would make me jumpy. And if you did hear shots out there, I'd come out a blazing too. Just saying. That was from Pam Coggins. Chai said the $1 million question. Does his perception of imminent jeopardy meet the standards? I say yes, as he has no criminal history. He has a good rapport with both the sheriffs and immigration out there before this incident. If they ad or prior, I guess is what it is. If they, the persons he saw, are just entering the U.S., why would they try to kill a rancher for no reason? If it happened before, he should know that too. It seems pretty cold-blooded. Well, guys, you never know which of the coyotes or the people who are the lookouts for the coyotes are carrying weapons. And some of them carry drugs, which is what I may suspect because I just found out that the backpack and the fanny pack were supposedly, allegedly, opened and dug through. And that would lead to me that he was shot and something was taken from him. Even though I've lived here for 30 years, I still get vertigo when oh, that's something different. Let me go through. A lot of people are leaning that he's not guilty because the victim was so far away. I don't know why that's dinging. To claim self-defense, one has to perceive they or others are in imminent danger. They don't have to actually be in that danger. So if I'm on my property, or let's just put it this way, my papa has a ranch. It is very isolated. Very isolated. And if I'm in that ranch house and I hear a gunshot on that ranch, I'm going to think one of three things. Well, maybe two things at first. Someone's hunting illegally, but we are in the ranch is central southwest Texas. They do have and had immigrants passing through the ranch with evidence of it. This is not alleged. They've been seen. I'm going to also think that there's something very bad happening and I am in immediate, imminent danger, and I would leave the house with a gun if I left the house. Some people are saying, why didn't he just stay in the house and call Border Patrol or the Sheriff's Department? You know what? Let's think about this. He's a rancher. He's a man. They go defend. I don't know too many ranchers that would sit in the house and hide. Someone's saying there's 12 ranchers on this jury. I need to get some of this information. I understand he probably got fed up with all this because let me tell you, when you have ranch land and you have property, you have cattle, horses, animals, and people leave so much trash on your property, and if they should start eating that trash, it's harmful to your property, and it would irritate me to no end to have to clean up the crap that's left behind. Now they're saying someone that's commenting, remember they were 150 yards away when he was using the AK-47 with iron sights. Even an expert marksman would have trouble hitting them. And think of it, he's wearing glasses, not little thin ones like mine. He's having to put his glasses on just to see the judge. And my son showed me this, and let me see if I can do this. Most sights on a gun. I'm pulling up a picture. We'll see if I can get this in. Images. I'm not seeing it. I wish I saved it, but the sight lineup on an AK-47 is different than a standard gun or weapon. Honestly, very much different than a standard weapon. Uh, 720 Red Dog says, I feel like without a very well put together presentation of guilt, this man would be found not guilty. Evidence will matter some, sure, but this is a charge issue that may lean into personal jury bias. Maybe. Let me get that back up. I can't say some of these. I'm sorry, I'm dyslexic, and I'm not saying that jokingly. I'm clinically dyslexic. I was, man, in college, I had to have special accommodations. Carvel says, what forensics? That's my point. They never recovered the bullet, and there were casings that do not belong to him out and about there. Some of the other things they're saying is that his particular weapon was not removed from his premises for more than 24 hours after they left the scene and investigation and removal of the body. Oh, they're talking about clock changes. Many people say this should have never come to trial. Okay, somebody was late to court this morning. That explains why we were late to trial. They started, so someone says. I think 3:30 is when they're going to come back on here. Just saying. The defense made a request. Get a load of this. The defense made a request to have an on-site visit of the ranch so they could personally see where the house is and where the guy was that was shot. I think they should. If they can do it in the Murdaugh trials. I'm sorry, my thing is pulling. If they can do that in the Murdaugh trials, they definitely can be doing it here. Everyone's talking about the time zones. I don't know if the motion has been granted or denied for the jury to visit the ranch. Someone else says it is possible Kelly didn't intend to kill him and just got a lucky shot, so to speak. And what would still qualify for second degree in firing a deadly weapon in a person's direction? I get that. Okay, I think I'm at the bottom of that comment. Let me go up. A lot of people are saying the same thing. So, some of the things I'm seeing, and I wish I'm going to have to figure out how to find it. But some of the things I'm hearing is, number one, once the investigation was done that day, actually it went through the night and into the next morning. The body was removed at 1:43 a.m. The gentleman, Mr. Felix, was not the first person to guard the body. He was the second. And he arrived there at 7:24 p.m. They did not remove the weapon for over 24 hours after this incident was called in and started investigating from the home. The AK-47 was left with the rancher in his home. Hearings, and I haven't seen it in evidence of court, so I'm saying it's alleged that the casings that were found on the patio, or some casings that were found, do not belong to that weapon, nor do they belong to the weapon that Mr. Kelly was wearing on his hip at the time. So it's going to be real interesting to see how all this kind of, as in sign language, comes together. I did switch shirts. I put on my new t-shirt from my friend Tracy. It's a little more comfortable than what I had on before. I haven't had that on in a while, and it started irritating me. Franklin Einstein. I wonder if the judge fell asleep, but they can't wake him up. You know, it was interesting when they started this morning. The live didn't start until halfway through the cross-examination. We got some people going off on each other. This is the comments that I'm talking about are in the Law and Crime Network. 4:30 Eastern, which is 3:30 our time. So we got 10 more minutes before that happens. So I have seen a few of you tell me that you have birthdays today. You share birthday with me. And so,
happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
I am, for those of you who don't know, I am deaf and I sign. I can talk because I grew up hearing. Became deaf over the last 20 years. The last 10 and a half, well, actually last 5.5 years, I lost pretty much what I had left. So I talk wonderfully, can't hear worth a crap. I have special ears and a special soundboard that I'm putting my sound through. They don't have closed captioning. Darn it. They should. They did the other day. They don't have, but I should have closed captioning on my end. So I will see if I can turn that on. Nothing really yet in comments. People are just chatting, killing time. I have cupcakes. I'll eat one later. Thanks to my bestie in the world. She's going through cancer and was going to have treatment today, but her numbers were too low. But she came by today, and her husband blessed me with beautiful flowers, this cool t-shirt that I absolutely love. Best Shalom Ministries, I am a part of. I'm ordained to minister under them. And a dozen cupcakes. Darlings. A dozen. I'll share them with Debbie and Dan tonight. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just give a quick plug. I have a website, a YouTube channel on, it's called Jill Widow, and I have a Facebook page, Jill Widow, and I talk about what it's like to lose your husband or spouse. I guess it could be your wife, it could be your child, it could be any family member, but for me it was husband to prison. What are the things I wished I knew? What are the things I should have done, shouldn't have done? What to expect? Yep, my captioning is on. Thank you. How to navigate through that process. Let's see if I can take these off for a while. How to navigate through that process. How to get in a place that will just go on with life. There's a lot of things that most people don't think about when you lose a spouse to prison. Things that you don't plan ahead for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break. I think we're getting ready to go live again. I'm going to put this on.
establishing the presence of all jurors, counsel, and the defendant. State the cause next, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Agent Marcel.
And yes, I'm here. Thank you all for coming back.
Good afternoon.
Here we go.
Could you please tell the jury your name and your occupation?
This is Jeremy Scott Marcel, United States Border Agent.
And Agent Marcel, could you tell the jury just a little bit about your background?
Sure, I entered on duty with the United States Border Patrol March 27th of 2008. Completing upon entering on duty, I attended the United States Border Patrol Academy, RTG in Mexico, for approximately 5 months. There, learning things like immigration law, nationality law, defense tactics, arrest techniques.
Welcome back, everyone.
Graduating from the Border Patrol Academy,
Can I stop you for a second? How long did you say that academy was?
approximately 5 months.
5 months, okay. And then what did you do next?
On graduating, I came to Nogales Border Station, where we attended a field training for approximately 8 weeks. There again, we did more firearms training, arrest techniques, physical techniques. Learned actually how to do certain assignments work with the senior agent approximately for those 8 weeks. Area orientation in the area that we work.
Once again, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Etta Kay, and I feel like I'm an alternate juror, so to speak. We're here watching a case.
Can you tell us on
Sorry, let me go ahead and pause it so those hopping on know what's going on. We are watching the George Kelly case, Arizona versus George Kelly, for he's being charged in 2 second-degree murders for shooting an illegal persons. Didn't mean to do that, y'all. For shooting an illegal persons on his property. That is what he's been accused of. So, this is the afternoon session. This is our third witness for the prosecution, James Marcel. He is a Border Patrol agent.
Contract that's actually already entered in the United States.
any other specific duties that you learned at that time?
Checkpoint operations, we have a checkpoint kilometer goes 40, Interstate 19, checkpoint operation there as well. Processing, review files on subject that we've already arrested, whether we're deporting, setting them up for asylum, or return to your country voluntarily.
I do have captioning on my Facebook and YouTube, but depending on the
Now I know that
volume and the clarity, I may or may not be as accurate as I'd like.
Sort of reorganized and you're now part of another group, is that right?
We're currently under Customs and Border Protection with our customs officers as well.
Okay, so Customs and Border Protection Officers and Border Patrol, I think we generally call you green shirts and blue shirts, is that right?
Sure.
Okay, is that a common way
It's
that
pretty,
people?
it's pretty common, yes.
Yeah, okay, and I see you're wearing a green shirt, so you're with the green shirts, and that's the Border Patrol, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then Customs and Border Protection, those are the folks that wear
Police
blue
blue,
uniforms?
fire red, border
So,
green.
yes, the customs officers, yes, they were actually with the
Okay, so you said they work at the ports of entry. Can you tell me what the difference is in your mission between Customs and Border Protection and then Border Patrol?
Sure, their mission is actually, they inspect people, as well as cargo that's entering the United States from the internet, border of entry, whether it's land, sea, water, or the Border Patrol. We work between ports of entry up to approximately 100 miles, air miles north of the border. So we actually go around.
So if you didn't hear that, the Border Patrol works within 100 miles of the border. He gets loud and then he gets.
So CBP, their ports of entry, you guys are everything else up to 100 miles of the border.
Excuse me a second. Signaling, can't hear you well.
Sure.
Thank you for letting me know.
Thank
Can you hear
you.
me okay? Or is it just the agent? Okay.
Get close.
Okay. So we're talking about
Fingers with
the
the
different duties between the Border Patrol and the Customs and Border Protection. And you said, so does that mean y'all take care of the checkpoints as well?
We do yes, ma'am. Border Patrol.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about your employment history with the Border Patrol after you finished your training?
Okay, so upon completing the Border Patrol Academy, as well as the training unit, I was on a probationary period for approximately 2 years. On completing that probationary period, I was able to obtain certification, especially details. So I was certified on the altering vehicle unit. I was High States Entry certified. I was certified on multiple.
They're qualifying him.
Devices that carry in the unit. I was certified as level 2 road rescue technician, as well as certified to the oral hiring boards for new hires, hired for the Border Patrol. And along with those certifications, then I'm able to put in for certain details. Like I spent several years on the ATV unit, as well as the mounting unit, kind of the outskirts of the Dallas area, as well as a flex team, kind of operates the same thing on the outskirts of Dallas area, responsibility. It's pretty about it for certifications.
And what types of assignments have you had then? You talked about ATVs, mountain unit. Did you say mounted unit?
Mountain team. Yes, we're kind of on the that's the mountains, Mount Washington, kind of the higher areas and the flanks of the Dallas area. That's flex team. The checkpoint, I spent several months at the checkpoint working there as well. Just when the patrollers patrolling, when the line watch the process as well.
And at some point, did you move to an assignment called the ranch liaison position?
I spent 18 months on the ranch liaison under public affairs.
How are you currently assigned?
I'm currently assigned to the I-19 checkpoint.
And so what time frame was the 18 months that you were assigned to the ranch liaison position?
So I was on the ranch liaison from October of 2021 to approximately March, into March, early April of 2020.
So he's the ranch
Is that
liaison.
typically an 18-month assignment?
It is, yes, ma'am. Some of our details you're able to extend, some you just.
Very
use
important
straight
witness.
Flat time. Extend.
So on January 30th, 2023, would that have been your assignment as a ranch liaison?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell the jury a little bit about what a ranch liaison does?
Sure, the ranch liaison will fall under public affairs. We work a lot with the community, specifically we work with ranchers and property owners along the southern border, specifically in the Dallas border areas of responsibility. We're there to establish and also maintain positive working relationships with ranchers as well as property owners that own property on the southern border that we work. We routinely communicate with the ranchers and property owners to just keep them up to date with what's kind of going on in their property, immigration related, and what we're kind of enforcing, as well as they reach out to us anything that they may be seeing as well.
So maybe you said this and I got a little distracted there for a minute, but did you indicate part of that mission has to do with making sure you have access for your operations?
Yeah, that's kind of the vital role of ranch liaison, to make sure, since we're by law able to enter our properties within 25 miles of the border, a lot of it's, some of it's private property, so to maintain access, smoothly into these properties, we kind of maintain a positive relationship with them to allow us to place locks on their gates or no locks at all. We assist with replacing gates with cattle guards to kind of alleviate any issues with gates being left open. Helps with kind of our response time as well.
And you talked about, maintaining that good relationship. Is part of that helping them when there are issues with having to cut fences for access and things like that?
Yes, so they're actually all where they will assist with actually mending the fences that are cut. So if sometimes our horse patrol or ATVs will have cut a fence to respond to traffic. There's no way to actually get to that traffic. There's not a gate close by. So to actually get on the other side of the fence with the horses or the ATV, they may have to cut it. So
Perfect
reach out
way
to
to
me
eat a
actually fix
cupcake.
it, or they'll fix it themselves, or they'll notify the ranchers that we had to make a cut of the fence.
So is the idea then kind of to keep good PR with those folks so that you have a good relationship with them?
Yes, ma'am.
And you talked a little bit about the communication that you have with the ranchers. What's the purpose of communicating with them? How do you communicate with them?
So the main purpose is safety. We're constantly patrolling on these properties that they work, they ranch. So the main concern is safety. I've actually used government issued phone that's assigned to the ranch liaison unit. So I have a government issued phone that's assigned to me. That's how we can communicate. It's through text messages or phone calls. Just so that make them aware if we are working in the area. That way they can, there's no interference, there's no safety concerns, no surprises. They know we're working in the area. They may stay out of the area for a little bit that way. Especially since we use air support a lot, helicopters that fly overhead. If someone would be on horseback working, cattle, we don't want to spook the horses with the helicopter. So just a friendly text or a phone call saying, hey, the board post going to be in an area working a group, say. They might just stay out of the area. Maybe if they're working near that area, we'll just come back another time when we have cleared more finished with our operations.
Okay. So generally the idea then is just to keep folks away from their operations. Is that what the communication is for?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you kind of sometimes get that information flow the other direction as well, right?
Yes, ma'am. They'll call us as well saying, if they feel comfortable, they'll notify us. They'll let us know if they see any traffic, immigration related or cops related. They'll give us a heads up on that as well.
Now, in January of 2023, in your professional capacity, do you know what property owner named George Allen Kelly?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know where his ranch was located?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was it located?
On the east side of Nogales, Arizona, near Kino Springs.
Is that in Santa Cruz County?
Yes, ma'am.
You talked about Nogales Border Patrol area that you all are responsible for.
Yes, ma'am.
What area is that?
So we go from downtown Nogales area, Arizona, we go as far east as Mount Washington, which would be similar. If you look to the east of downtown Nogales, you see that big mountain there, that's Mount Washington. That's kind of our scene. The top of that mountain is kind of our scene, too far east. We go as far west as Arivaca, if you're familiar with that. And then we go as far north as, pretty far as Green Valley, Arizona.
So Mr. Kelly's property is within the Nogales Station, Border Patrol Station area?
Yes, ma'am.
And was he someone you knew in your capacity as a ranch liaison?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell us what name did Mr. Kelly ask you to call him?
Alan, I believe. I call him Mr. Kelly. It's kind of
Okay.
for some.
But he would refer to himself as Alan sometimes.
Yes, ma'am.
So George
And
goes
did you
by
ever use
Alan
Mr.
most
Kelly
of the
for
time, just
I did.
FYI, you're going to hear
And
both
could you tell the
George and
jury a
Alan.
little bit about when you first met Mr. Kelly?
So when I first met Mr. Kelly, I don't remember the time of year it was. He was out of town. I took over the ranch liaison and driving around with the former ranch liaison. He was unavailable. So I reached out to him probably several weeks after that. We met at his property. He just kind of gave me a tour of the property there, pointed out some areas.
And did you have some communication with him by phone?
We did, yes, ma'am.
Did you have him in your phone as a contact?
I did, yes,
Someone
ma'am.
you regularly reached out to?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that for things like you just described, to let him know about operational things that were happening and things of that nature?
Yes, ma'am.
Now I want to move forward to the events of January 30th of 2023. Could you tell the jury what were you doing that day when the events began involving this case?
So when the events actually began at 2:30 p.m., I was actually changing out. I was at my locker, changing out to get ready to go home. I received a phone call.
And you received a phone call at what time?
2:30 p.m.
And what, do you recall what number you received that from?
It was a number that was not saved in my contacts. It was 520-204, and I don't remember the last four, but it was a number not saved in my contacts.
Did you document that in your report?
I did, yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a minute for the phone number. But when you got that call at 2:30, you said you were.
Can you go back real quick?
Sure.
I don't think I documented the actual telephonic number, the actual number in my report.
Okay. It was on your phone log, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
There's a lot of conversation that's documented.
And when you got the call at 2:30, you said you were changing out. Tell us what you were doing.
I was at my locker changing into gym clothes to work out.
Okay. And when you got that call, who was the call from?
Mr. Allen.
And could you tell the jury about the call?
So upon answering the phone, it was Mr. Kelly right away. He seemed very rushed and a little frantic at the call. He said, "Jeremy, I'm being shot at. I'm shooting back. I said, Mr. Kelly, are you okay?" He stated that he was unable to talk at that time. So I told Mr. Kelly I would call the station, send agents out there.
And did he tell you anything else about what he was observing at that moment?
At that time, he observed 5 subjects running southbound.
Did he say what they were running with?
Packs.
And what was his tone like?
It was pretty rushed. It sounded like he was exerting himself, kind of frantic.
Did you, if you said you knew it was Mr. Kelly, how did you know it was Mr. Kelly?
Just by his accent, his tone, his very distinct voice, the way he says my name, the way he talks.
So you recognize
I
the voice?
recognize the voice.
And then just so you let me know if I got this accurate. Sorry, this is a Is that look accurate on what you just told me the statements were that Mr. Kelly gave you that day?
Yes, ma'am.
You're under permission to display, just as if I'm writing on the whiteboard.
Permission granted. So this is what we call a demonstrative exhibit. The other exhibits that are presented and admitted in evidence are in evidence. Any exhibit that's submitted in evidence will have available to the jury. This is not something that's submitted in evidence. It's demonstrative. It's just a guide to someone where can use to just help them study evidence better. But that is that any exhibit that's been admitted in evidence, there have been some so far, would be able to go back to it. So yes.
Agent Marcel, after you got the call from Mr. Kelly, what did you do?
I immediately called the Gallup Police Station to report it.
Dang
You
it,
were
I did
already
it again.
in the-
I'm sorry, y'all. I've got 20 buttons to push to do anything. What I said was, if I'm being shot at, like this text says, I'm sitting here in my home, I hear a gunshot. First thing I'm going to think of, and if I'm in the middle of a ranch in the middle of nowhere, like at my papa's place, and there's a gunshot close enough for me to hear it, I see 5 people with backpacks, I'm going to assume I'm in danger. That is reasonable. Gunshot, people, don't know. Not supposed to be on property. They're illegally. I'm going to think that I'm in imminent danger and I'm going to defend. And that's my humble opinion.
I was with such a large facility, and you got honest, I was in my underwear with the call, and it just wanted to just make a phone call.
Dude, I was getting
to the
dressed
radio
for
room. We had
work.
such a large facility.
I'm naked
I
in
mean,
my
time,
underwear.
if I hear somebody getting shot at, I want to get agents out
Oh,
there
I bet he
as soon as
flows on
possible.
quick.
So it just transferred the call to the Dallas Police Station, even though it was in the facility.
When you said transfer the call, meaning you called, you
I
transferred
called.
to Mr. Kelly, right?
No, I called.
Okay. So when you called and you reported it, what did you ask them to do?
To send agents to Vermilion Mountain Ranch, to check and report that he was being shot at.
And did you have some conversation with someone in dispatch to make sure that was happening?
I did. I talked to a corporal agent, Josh Jersey, who I spoke with.
And did you ask them to do anything else in terms of, did you just ask them to send out border patrol, or did you ask for something else as well?
I asked the border patrol as well as the sheriff's department.
Send the infantry.
So just since sometimes we're not available, sheriff's there as well.
And after you made that call to the station, and you knew that was all underway, what did you do next?
After I spoke with the station, I called Mr. Kelly back to check on his welfare.
And what time was that call?
That was at 2:36 p.m.
And when you called him back, what was his demeanor like during that call?
This time he was a little calmer. He didn't seem as rushed. Still kind of adrenaline filled, I would say. But he was a little more calmer this time. He did speak.
And what did he tell you was happening at this time? Or what did he tell you during this phone call?
This time he stated that he saw 5 subjects walking northbound with packs towards Kino Springs. I proceeded to ask Mr. Kelly if he was being shot at, and this time he said he heard a gunshot and saw his horse walking by or running back frantically. And at the time it kind of sounded like he was inspecting the horse, and I believe he even stated that his horse doesn't appear to be shot. I asked Mr. Kelly if he had seen any firearms on the subjects that he saw running, so I could notify the station to give the agents responding an update. At this time, he stated that it was too far to tell if he had a firearm.
Okay, I got to stop here. One of the things is when you're sitting in your home and all of a sudden you hear a gunshot go off, like I said, you're going to assume, and then you look out the window and see 5 people. You don't know how many else are out there that you don't see, because some of these coyotes transport 15, 20, 30 people at any one time. So it's not just always a small group. Sometimes they're pretty large groups with children or they're drug runners. But then he calls in, he says, I think I'm being shot at. I saw 5 people. Then you get a call. Agent Marcel calls him back. He realizes there's no more gunfire going on. He realizes that things are calmer. He's going to be more clear-minded. My humble opinion. And he is 73 years old at the time.
The 2:36 call.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to make sure I get this right. For the first call at 2:30, he says they're running southbound.
Gunshot
Right.
horses
And then
running
the
by the
second
house.
call, he says they're running towards Kino Springs.
He did say they were running towards Kino Springs, and he also stated that he wasn't sure if they were, I can't remember if he said doubling back or circling around to head back southbound.
He doesn't know. He didn't know if they have a gun on him or not. He doesn't know what's going on.
The north of his property, is that right?
You
Yes.
got to assume
So
at
they
least.
They were,
Okay, I'm going to want to talk over this. You got to assume at least if you've got a coyote who is hauling people illegally across borders and cross ranches into the United States, a lot of times they are also carrying drugs or someone with drugs, that they are going to have weapons. He has seen weapons on these people in the past. You don't know the intent of these people, and coyotes will kill you if you interfere.
he thought they were doubling back to his southbound again,
Yes, ma'am.
but you're not sure.
Thank you
about
for
that,
watching.
is that what
You
he
can
said?
click
You're
comment,
not
like,
sure
and
if he said
subscribe.
that.
Yes, ma'am.
Ooh, I
It
do
was
have a
either
lot of
doubling back
comments.
or circling back, one or the other.
Yes, ma'am.
So after this phone call, what did you do next?
So this time I called the station back in to update them, let them know that this time I was able to speak with them, he's okay, and they didn't see any firearms at the time.
So other than him saying that he heard a gunshot and his initial statement that he was being shot at, that he retracted in the second call, did he ever say he saw any firearms in these two phone calls?
No, ma'am.
Did he ever say he saw anyone point a gun at him?
No, ma'am.
You
You don't have to have a gun pointed at you for you to fear for your life.
And then during the second phone call, if I understood you correctly, he initially said he'd been shot at, but the second time he said, no, he just heard a gunshot.
Yes, ma'am.
And then after you touched base with your supervisors, anything else happened following the call?
Upon reporting everything to my supervisor in person, then we reported it to his command staff as well.
Okay. Other than that internal reporting that happens within the department, anything happen substantively with Mr. Kelly?
No, ma'am.
As far as you know, were agents deployed out to the scene?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, on the second phone call, DPA Church actually relayed to me that at least two agents were responding, as well as the sheriff's department.
Okay, so when you spoke to them during the second call or after the second call?
During the second call.
So during the second call with Mr. Kelly, that's when Churchy told you there were agents responding?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you
By the way, FYI, these people showed up on his property. They searched the property and didn't find anyone. Why didn't they find the body? That's my curiosity. It was 115 yards from the house. They searched the property around the house. They didn't find the body either. That surprises me.
aware of what happened at that time? Or is that the end of your part?
That was the end of my part in that situation.
What did you do after that?
So after relaying everything to my command staff and my supervisor's command staff, then I proceeded to return home.
So you went off duty?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
And do you keep your ranch liaison phone with you even when you're off duty?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you do that on this occasion?
I did, yes.
Is that the phone that Mr. Kelly was calling you on, just to be clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall the phone number for that phone?
I believe I do have it wrote down.
Okay, guys, I'm sorry. We somehow reverted
And
back.
did he say anything about what he was describing these individuals as?
He described them as drug mules.
And then at some point, did he give you a different number than 10 suspects during this call?
Did it really?
Did he give you an even larger number after he originally told you 10 subjects?
He said approximately 10 to 15.
10 to 15? And he said they were all carrying AR-style rifles?
Yes, ma'am.
And what's Mr. Kelly's wife's name?
Wanda?
Okay, guys, understand this. It's 115 to 150 yards away from the house. You got people scattering. You've got a lot of little trees and twigs and everything in between him and the house. He's an older man, not the best of eyesight. He's guessing. But the coyotes, a lot of time, from what I've understand and researched, they often travel with people of those numbers. That to me doesn't bother me as much as the fact they didn't find the body when they came out to investigate this the first time. That bothers me more.
Could you take a look at that and see if I've accurately summarized your statements there?
Yes, ma'am.
And so I want to walk through this with you. So on this occasion, he didn't say he's getting shot at and he's shooting back. He said he's inside the house when he hears the gunshot. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And he also says that it was at that point that he goes outside and sees the horse running by.
Yes, ma'am.
And the first time you talked to him, he said 5 subjects. But the next time you talked to him, he said 10 subjects and then 10 to 15, all loaded down with AR-style rifles.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this the first time that he told you that he saw rifles?
Yes, ma'am.
The voice that you heard on this phone call, was it the same voice you heard on the 2:30 and the 2:36 phone calls?
They're pretty similar, yes, ma'am.
So I guess my question is, I know that the meters changed, but was it the same person on all 3 phone calls?
Yes, ma'am.
And you recognize the voice?
Yes, ma'am.
So after this phone call, what's the next thing that you did?
I proceeded to go in the gym and complete my workout.
So you went from this phone call, where were you when you took this phone call?
In the parking lot of the gym.
And then you were off duty, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so then you headed on into the gym, and then what's the next thing that happened related to this case?
At approximately 5:20 something, I think it was 5:35 when I noticed that I was completing my workout, putting the gym equipment away. I thought I heard my phone alert. So I went over to my phone to check it out, and I saw this call from Mr. Kelly, as well as a text message from Mr. Kelly. Text message stated, call me immediately. There was also a voicemail from Mr. Kelly as well.
So you missed the call and you missed the text message, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And does 5:23 sound like the correct time for the missed call?
Yes, ma'am.
And does 5:26 sound like the correct time for the missed text message?
Yes, ma'am.
I am sorry, y'all. I am eating popcorn. I know this can be a little bit slow and a little boring at the moment, but this is laying the foundation. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Okay, just so if you've never watched court at all or you don't know much about it, he can refer to that document that was just handed to him, but he cannot read from it word for word.
There are 2 exhibits in front of you now. Could you first take a look at Exhibit 60.1, State's Exhibit 60.1? Do you recognize that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And what does that appear to be?
A screenshot of a phone log.
And is that the text message you just discussed a minute ago?
Yes, ma'am.
And then Exhibit 59, do you recognize that? And I said 5:23, but that was the 5:26 text message, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then could you take a look at item 59? Do you recognize them?
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you recognize it?
I actually listened to it and signed the thumb drive for the voicemail of Mr. Kelly that left my government issue phone.
And does that appear to be what you signed and listened to?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're with the court's permission of all proceedings to play the voicemail, which were moved, I moved in, pardon me, or I moved for admission of State Exhibit 59 and State Exhibit 60.1.
I have no objection to that.
59,
Okay, now they're going to play this message.
Boy, now.
I hope it's clear.
This is Alan Kelly. You need to call me immediately. This is serious. Call me immediately. I can't say more over the phone. Bye.
And does that accurately depict the voicemail message you received?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm showing on the screen now, State Exhibit 60.1. Is that an accurate representation of the text message that you received?
Yes, ma'am.
And just to verify, since I got it wrong the first time, that's January 30th, 2023 at 5:26 p.m. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said it was about 5:35 that you noticed you missed the text message and the phone call. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do when you noticed that?
I immediately called Mr. Kelly back.
Did y'all place the phone tag?
We did. He didn't answer the first time. I proceeded to call him back again, and I believe he was calling into me, and I answered his phone call.
Tell me, when you got this call from Mr. Kelly, what was his tone like?
So now it changed to Mr. Kelly that I've never heard before, but now he sounded scared.
I'd be scared.
And what did Mr. Kelly tell you when you spoke to him?
So upon greeting Mr. Kelly, he pretty much felt bad, stated that this was the
Thank
worst
you
thing
for
he could
following
ever
me.
imagine.
And did he say anything else?
He said he needed agents to respond to his property, someone to meet with him. He asked where I was, and I told him I was off duty, I wasn't able to respond, nor did I have the Border Patrol works, but when we're off duty. But so I proceeded to tell him he sounds like he needs to be checked on, and that could send agents out there.
And then when he said it's worse than he could imagine, did he repeat that a couple of times, and then did he say some other phrases as well?
He did. He stated again that it's worse than he could ever imagine.
And did he say, is this bad, as well?
He did it just.
I'm sure he
Did
was
you
in
ask
shock
him
and scared and
for some details
Teabag
about
of
what was
emotions.
going on?
I did, because I have to report my station to get agents out there, so I want to give them the most accurate information that I can. It sounded that something had happened, so I wanted to relay to the agents or whoever was going to respond out there the most accurate information of what to expect when they get on scene. So I proceeded to ask him what was going on, if he could clarify, if he could be specific on what was worse than he could imagine.
no.
And how did he respond to you?
He responded that he couldn't state it over the phone. He proceeded to ask if any agents responded out there, if anything, they would have to report anything. I was very clear with him that ever since he called me 2:30 p.m., I reported that. Every phone call after that was reported to the station as well as my command staff, that everything's been reported and will continue to be reported.
Did you find something unusual that he was asking you these questions?
I did it just now.
And then what was his tone like when you were having this part of the conversation?
Now it's kind of more cautious of what he would say, somewhat evasive.
I just need to stop here, give you guys some context. He is standing in the middle of a field where he had earlier that day seen a group, 5, 6, could have been more, of illegals with a coyote. Coyote is a person who brings the illegals across the border. They get paid. And there was a gunshot. Later, he finds a body. He is standing with a body. He does not know if there's more around. He does not know if he could be overheard. The defense's side is that he was being cautious. The prosecution side, he's trying to not incriminate himself. So it's back to back.
Did that cause you concern?
It did, yes, ma'am.
Did you continue to press him for details?
I did for, a few more seconds until I kind of just ran out of patience of trying to get out of so I could report accurately. Finally, he stated that something was possibly struck.
Noob Gaining, you were right to a
Do
point.
you recall specifically when you told
But
me?
I gave statistics yesterday
So
in Arizona in that time frame. There's 300, I have to pull it out, I think 360, 340, 90, something like that, miles of border. And on average, about 1,500 people crossing per mile a year. That's a lot. Thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate you. Please comment, like, and subscribe. As always, I do appreciate comments.
after he told me that something possibly struck, and I tried to clarify what was actually struck. So we put this game of discussing the game, went back and forth. And I think at one point I stated, was it an animal? He said, well, you could possibly, classify it as an animal.
And was the specific phrase, how shots were fired earlier, something was possibly struck? Is that what he said to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And so after you continued to try to get more information out of him, you said he told you he couldn't tell you more over the phone. What did you suggest to him at that point?
So this is something I suggested that he call the sheriff's department, report that what he encountered on his property, and I told him I would call the station and have agents respond as well.
And how did he respond to you when you told him that?
He kind of just stated, okay.
Did he talk to you about who he wanted to come out to his residence that day?
He did. He did specify that he preferred, when I said about the sheriff's department, he did state that he preferred that the border patrol respond. He said it was a border patrol or a border-related issue, is what he had said.
Did he specifically say you need to get border patrol?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the border-related issue?
Yes, ma'am.
So he clearly didn't want the sheriff's department to respond, is that right?
You stated
That's
it.
all speculation.
Oh, first objection. Oh, that was quick.
Did you, after your conversation with him, is that the end of your conversation with him?
Yes, ma'am.
And during the conversation, it indicated his demeanor was scared. Would you also describe that as nervous? Is
Yes,
that-
ma'am. Mhm.
Could you take a look and see if I have, sorry, I just one there.
So the prosecution is kind of saying he should have called 911, got the sheriff department,
Summarize
and
your-
he did exactly what he was supposed to do. I'm going to pause this so you can see it for a second. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. He called the ranch liaison because this was involving an illegal immigrant. Now, I know the trial is moving. I pause this because this is hard to read quickly. So 2:30, he calls, I'm being shot at. I'm shooting back. Can't talk. 5 subjects, backpacks, running southbound. Then at 2:36, altercation with subject running towards Kino Springs. Too far to tell if they had firearms. Heard a gunshot. Saw my horse running by, inspecting horse during call. Then thanked and wanted to meet up. He wanted in the house. They heard gunshots. He went out to the porch and saw the horse run by. He then said 10 subjects, packs, all with AK-style rifles, 10 to 15. One saw it too. They were drug mules. Now, understand, he is speculating, but he's doing so because of the past history of what's happened on this ranch. In the past, they have had all of this stuff happen. So sometimes what we perceive is affected by what we have experienced. And sometimes, that's how we see things. May or may not be as 100% accurate. I don't see any maliciousness. I see fear. 523 to 526, Miss Voice called. Jeremy, this is Alan Kelly. You need to call me immediately. This is serious. Call me immediately. I can't say any more over the phone. Miss Text, call immediately. 5:35. It was worse than he could imagine. This is bad. Wanted Marcel to send someone to his house. Pressed for more specifics. He was evasive. Asked if this was being reported. Quote, you know how shots were fired earlier. Something was possibly struck. I can't tell you over the phone. I'm going to screenshot this so I can save it. Can't tell you over the phone. Marcel said called as sheriff's office, but Kelly refused. You need to get BP, Border Patrol. This is a Border Patrol related issue. And it was a Border Patrol related issue. However, it says down at the bottom, and you can't see down here, but right here, calmer, rambling super fast. You can't see because of that. And it says nervous and scared. You guys, I can't imagine finding a dead person on my property. You know, I mean, I've been around a lot of things. I have found a dead body before. When I called 911, I wasn't related to it. I came upon it doing some geocaching. I had to report it to the sheriff's office. They had to do all that kind of stuff. I know what it's like. I mean, and I didn't even know the person. It was an accident in a truck on a rural area on a hill where there was nobody there. Nobody knew it had happened. He'd been there for about 24 hours. And I still was nervous and scared for, just anxious and adrenaline. And I knew there was nothing I could do. He'd been there too long. There's no way he could be saved. It is very, very, very disconcerting and discombobulating finding a deceased person, whether it's on your property or next. So this is not an easy thing to deal with. And no offense, he is older. And a majority of people of his age do have some perception problems and visual. So I could see how his numbers may be skewed. They may have been carrying walking sticks and he may have thought it was a gun. But that 115 to 150 yards, you can't necessarily tell the difference between a walking stick and a gun. My humble opinion. I need to make that shirt. My humble opinion. I think that's what I'm going to do. Here we go.
Yes, ma'am.
You read it. I'm going to go ahead and speed through this a little bit. Oops, didn't mean to pause it. I don't know. They're all reading it.
Is your report contained in there?
I find it interesting that the prosecution and defense can sit down and question from the desk. However, they may be doing COVID precautions because they don't go up to they don't even go up to the judge when they call for a sidebar.
And did you document the phone numbers that you received calls on in that report?
That was lovely. Instead of getting popcorn, I dipped my hand in my coffee. Got to look.
I did not.
You also had an interview with Detective Ainsa and Detective Barba, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember relaying that information to them during that call? Or during that interview?
I do, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm just trying to just kind of catch up a little bit.
Okay, correct.
Yes, ma'am.
And they would that were accurate, the messages you received, that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And those are the phone calls that were accurately relayed today, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And they would be, the numbers would be the first two calls came from one number and the remaining calls came from the regular number you had with Mr. Kelly as a contact, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I like his
Thank you.
politeness. Yes, ma'am. Instead of yes. Yeah. Uh-huh. Just FYI.
During the times that you've spoken with Mr. Kelly, did he regularly carry a handgun?
Yes, ma'am.
And what type of handgun, if you know, and where did he carry it?
I don't recall the type of firearm, but he was in a holster when it was breaking.
Did you have some discussions with Mr. Kelly about carrying an AK-47?
One of the times, I believe, the first time I met Navy, he had discussed that he does routinely patrol his property with an AK-47.
Maybe.
And that's all
That's
I'm hearing.
not a for sure statement. A speculative. Maybe. Possibly. Okay, now it's the... I think it's a defense.
Good afternoon.
Yep.
So,
Good afternoon.
Speak in the mic,
you
ma'am.
ever talk to me? My name is Kathy Lower.
I have not.
I'm mic'd up as high as I can go.
Other than seeing you maybe in the hallway.
No, ma'am.
With the mic in front of you.
So to be clear, you work in the unit separate from the sheriff's department, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Just curious, when you're within the boundaries of your jurisdiction, where you explain how far you go in different directions, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What if there's an incident that involves, a crime? Who has that final jurisdiction? Is it you or the sheriff's department? How does that work?
So it depends what crime it is. If it's immigration related, typically we'll take over that part, but if it's like a crime outside of that, the sheriff's department may take over. We don't enforce, not the same laws as the sheriff's department or local police department enforces.
You do have some separate laws that do fall in your jurisdiction, like drugs,
Sure, yes, ma'am.
smuggling,
Yes, ma'am.
maybe some of the others that you think of.
So narcotics, smuggling, illegal entry without inspection.
Is that a crime?
It is
Illegal entry?
without inspection, yes, ma'am.
And what's an inspection?
Crossing the international boundary other than a designated port of entry.
Whoa, let's stop and talk about that for a second. I think I know where she's going. So the people on his property who are illegal aliens are his responsibility. And they are committing a crime, not only just crossing the border, but trespassing on the ranches to evade and avoid him. Border Patrol. That's a crime. So the person was shot while he was committing the crime.
And with the right to inspect if they do, when they come over that port of entry?
Yes, ma'am.
So when they avoid the port of entry, they're not giving you a chance to inspect.
Right.
So therefore
That's a crime.
That comes back.
Just trying to follow.
Yes, ma'am.
Are these federal or state laws?
These are federal law.
Federal?
Okay. So if
Which
you get a
trumps
drug
state?
trafficker, would that be a violation under federal law?
Yes, ma'am.
So then it would be your
So
jurisdiction.
you are considered law enforcement.
Yes, ma'am.
And I noticed you seem to be in uniform, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you do carry weapons
I do, yes, ma'am.
and both things that might, like guns, but also less lethal weapons, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because you don't know what you're going to face and encounter. Is that right?
Exactly.
Now, there's types of smuggling going on out there, isn't there?
Yes, ma'am.
What are the different types?
Human smuggling and also narcotics smuggling.
Okay. And both of them potentially are a crime.
Yes, ma'am.
Both of them
Federally
are.
also.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're all aware of a very, very scary drug out there called fentanyl. Are you aware of that?
Objection relevance, Your Honor.
Oh, I was waiting for
There's no
that.
indication there's any fentanyl involved in this case.
Your
And
Honor,
he's gonna
this
take
is
time to get a
going
drink.
to not only his job tasks, which they open the door to the things that he would be out there doing as a liaison and communicating to the ranchers that are along the border, things to be prepared. It goes to the state of mind of my client.
Objections overruled.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to
You're
talk
aware
that.
of that
First of all, that was a talking objection and answer. They should have gone to the bench on that. But my humble opinion, I'm not a lawyer. The thing is that when they are chasing people who are smuggling drugs such as fentanyl, meth, cocaine, marijuana, the list goes on, the rancher would get a text. Hey, we got helicopters. We're chasing. FYI, we may be on your property. That causes a reasonable amount of fear for safety. And that happens on a regular basis on his ranch and all the ranches within 100 miles of the border as far as it's concerning with Border Patrol. I like where she's going.
I mean, you're very scary drug out there right now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And is smuggling, whether it's fentanyl or other drugs, do they usually always come through point of entry, or are they
Most of the time
avoiding
not.
those areas and coming around?
Your Honor, objection, relevance, and also Rule 701. She shall ask you for opinions of a witness, that's a lay witness. And I'd like to make an argument on that.
He's doing everything to keep this out.
He is an expert as far as expertise knowledge, as far as him being border patrol. This is what he does.
They've not clarified him as an expert
Things that
witness.
he advised my clients to be careful of, and the state of mind that eventually goes to my client. And so he is the perfect witness for this. This is what he does every day.
And Your Honor, this witness is not listed as an expert witness.
There you go.
And Rule 701 indicates that the witness's testimony has to be rationally based on the witness's perception, has to be helpful to clearly understanding the witness's testimony or determining a fact and issue, and not based on scientific or otherwise, or other specialized knowledge. This witness did not perceive anything on this occasion that has anything to do with what Mrs. Lopez is asking this witness about.
Objections overruled. Yes.
Booyah. The prosecution was reading that. She was ready for this. She knew this was going to happen. Why else would she have it printed out? And the objection is overruled. You lost again. I wish I had a loss counter. I don't know how to do that. I'm going to have to learn how to do that. But man, I got to tell you, prosecution, you're losing on the cross already.
All right. We can see, okay? Let me, the smuggling that's coming through, are they coming outside of where the checkpoints are, or are they also coming outside of that area?
Both.
Okay? And you're patrolling outside at this time period.
Get that
And
in focus,
acting as
too.
a liaison for information outside of the checkpoints, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
These ranchers don't live out on the checkpoint, correct?
No, ma'am.
They live
So
real
I'm
thin.
visualizing a checkpoint, a station where you go through and it allows the federal government to inspect or talk to any subjects going through, check papers, and their rights to be there.
Okay, I'm going to stop this and explain. I live in Texas. We have the checkpoints just as much as Arizona, anybody else on the border, or at least the border of Mexico. You have the port of entry, or the border, the entry on the border, where every car goes through, X-rayed, some drug dogs, they ask who you are, where you're from, and what's your business. Then within so many miles, I don't know exactly, but I know it's within the 100 miles, they have another inspection station. Every vehicle has to go through there. I've done that many times. And I didn't leave the United States. I might go down to McAllen or somewhere near Hidalgo County or wherever. I was with the Red Cross. I was a 15-year Red Cross volunteer. I've been in every hurricane between Katrina and Harvey. And some of them were there. We had to go right there. I mean, literally 2 miles from the border. And when we go back north, we had to go through an inspection station, even though we did not leave the U.S. So there are multiple inspection stations going north. Going south into towards Mexico, there's no inspection stations. There are a lot of Border Patrol sitting on the side of the road, but there's not an inspection station that I've ever gone through personally in my own personal knowledge. With that said, a lot of drugs being smuggled in those stations and also just illegal crossings through ranches, rivers, and whatnot.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When you avoid that, you are potentially, like I said, breaking the law. And
You
you're
are.
not
No potential.
showing proper credentials, not allowing inspection and things like that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you're familiar with the area near my client's ranch, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You have an approximate idea how large of a ranch he has.
I believe it's approximately between 170 and 180 acres.
Okay. And although that sounds really large, it's not necessarily one of the bigger ranches out in the area.
No, they have ranches that are like 2,000 and 3,000
Okay,
acres.
and are you aware that he does cattle, maybe not only his own over the years, but also takes on cattle of other ranchers?
Yes, ma'am.
And you've seen that?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're aware that he has a horse?
Yes, ma'am.
And over the time, you also know he has dogs, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, it's important that a rancher has barbed wire or some kind of fencing to keep their livestock in and to keep other people's livestock from entering their own property, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's why you said if you had an emergency that where you guys had to, as Border Patrol, had to cut through to get to a situation, you also tried to repair that in respect of the homeowner's property, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So when someone not only comes through the property, if they're illegal, they're breaking a crime, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When they come on a property, they're breaking a crime by trespass, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
2
And
counts.
if they're shooting on their property, that's aggravated assault, and that's crime also.
3
Is that
counts.
correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for a
4
legal
counts of-
conclusion.
If you are trafficking people, you're the mule. I mean, the coyote, that's a crime. Coming across the border illegally is a crime. Trespassing the property is a crime. Firing the weapon on that property is a crime. That's 4 crimes. No brainer.
I don't know if he knows that.
Do you know what an aggravated assault is?
Maybe not verbatim, I don't know if that aggravated assault.
Okay, but is the person allowed to shoot at someone else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and would you suspect that it's a crime?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so these 3 factors are being told to you that day, that there is a crime afoot on his property back on January 30th of last year, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now,
Protecting yourself in the midst of the crime.
just for educational, some of the things that you are aware of
Sorry.
and that you may have also shared with my client. You do educate my client and other ranchers about things going on, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And would it be fair to say there's been increases of activity out on the ranchers' properties that over years have increased? Have you had a chance to observe that?
An increase in traffic?
Yes.
Yes, and both also the decrease in traffic as well over the years. It kind of fluctuates.
Okay, and leading up to this, you made numerous text messaging and communications to my client to be careful of different activities that was going around near his property.
I shall
Yes,
return.
ma'am.
And there's a bunch of text messages to prove that, isn't there?
Yes, ma'am.
And you wanted him to be safe with his wife, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that all, is that the only 2 people living on this property of this ranch, the Vermilion Ranch, that you're aware of?
They're the only 2 I'm aware of.
And it's fair to say they are senior citizens, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so they would be a little more vulnerable to things that might be going on that might be crime-like, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you probably had some concerns for their safety, I would imagine.
Yes, ma'am.
You actually were in, really good communication with him and overseeing and looking out for him, weren't you?
Yes, ma'am.
And as it should be, right? Isn't that
That's
your
the
job?
point of the detail, yes, ma'am.
Okay, but you earnestly did it with care and concern.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and then when you have smugglers, you already told us that there's different kinds of smugglers, human trafficking, drug trafficking, correct?
Yes, ma'am, as well as firearms as well.
Firearms are important.
Mhm.
Firearms always carry some form of value, don't they?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, that's common knowledge, right?
Mhm.
And that's a yes for the court reporter, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I'm not trying to, but she needs those words.
No, I call myself.
That's fine.
And can I just show a continuing objection for the record? Thank you.
And I would imagine in your position, all those things that you talked about, smugglers, guns, human smuggling, drug smuggling, trafficking, those are things you have encountered and have some experience with yourself, correct? Making
Yes, ma'am.
arrests?
Yes, ma'am.
Made arrests, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I mean, that's part of your job, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And although you're new, it didn't take long before you got acquainted with those types of things going on around you, I would assume.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and when you were doing a ride-along, I would assume, were you riding along when you were on probation, or were you out on your own?
Field training unit, we were actually riding with a senior agent upon completing the field training unit. Then I did ride solo sometimes with a journeyman as well.
So in the beginning, I would assume you had to ride along first, and then eventually they kind of cut you loose still on probation, but now that you've been trained a little better, you were now cut loose to ride your own vehicles?
Yes, ma'am.
And the terrain out there is flat, and there's also mountains, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And there's a lot of ravines or arroyos or washes.
I really like her quote.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And it just covers the whole terrain, doesn't
Yes, ma'am.
it? Okay. And you're aware that there are cameras out there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And was there potentially cameras in the general area that Mr. Kelly lived in?
Yes, ma'am.
But sometimes these people go undetected. How come?
Be right back.
They use tactics to avoid our camera systems and other detection devices.
Okay. And so how do they do that to your personal knowledge?
They'll follow low ground, washes, ravines, stay out of sight.
So cameras don't see that lower ground as well as if they're above the ravine.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the terrain is covered with these ravines, creating, almost like an anthill of pathways through this area, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now there's something also that might happen out there is, well, let me strike it. Let me get to that in a second. Is it the people that carry the backpacks, are they usually transporting items?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, again, objection. This calls for an opinion, and this witness is listed as a lay witness, not as an expert witness.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what would you might find in a backpack with people that are coming in illegally, not at the checkpoints?
Typically food, clothing, personal belongings, identification IDs, mainly food, clothing,
What about drugs?
drugs. Yes, ma'am.
What about guns?
Yes, ma'am.
Is a person carrying illegal activities more likely to have a gun than someone that's not illegally committing a crime like carrying something illegal?
Objection, form of the question.
Let me rephrase that. If someone is traveling with illegal drugs in their backpack, would they be the one that'd be more likely armed?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, and I'm not talking about the immigrant family that's trying to find the American dream, okay? I'm talking about smugglers at this time. So you following me, sir?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
There's also a word out there called rip crews. What is that?
They're bandits that kind of operate to either rob migrants that have crossed the border or also steal the narcotics that are coming from rival cartels.
Okay. So not only are they out there trying to get to whatever destination for whatever profitability they're looking for, but they also have to face the potential of someone stealing from them. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so knowing that as a possible environment, would that also be a reason why someone carrying illegal activity of some sort would want to be armed?
Yes, ma'am.
To protect themselves against other thieves?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, when people cross the border, isn't it true that they have to pay a price to get across?
You do, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what is your knowledge about that?
I've recently heard in the past years upwards to
Again, Your Honor,
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Speculation and hearsay.
Go ahead, sir.
for what we gathered, it's upwards of $8,000 to $10,000 depending on the country. we're from.
Prosecution lost another one.
$8,000 to $10,000 is a lot of money. Would you not agree?
Yes, ma'am.
And that would be dollars, not in Mexican money.
Yes, ma'am.
$8,000 to $10,000. Holy crap.
So it wouldn't be fun to just go over there for nothing for that much money, right? I mean, you better have a good reason to pay that kind of money. Would you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
And let's talk about drugs, for example. That's a very profitable business. So it needs to be more profitable than 8,000 to 10,000 to do it. Would that be fair to assess?
That the drugs are more profitable.
Well, if someone is going to smuggle, you would hope that they are a business person to know that they're going to make more money than 8,000 to 10,000 if that's the fee they have to pay to get across in the first place. Would that be
Drugs are more profitable to a point,
Now,
yeah.
when you deal
A
with
lot more.
pills like fentanyl, I mean, they are a pill form, correct? You've seen them?
I have, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
you can carry a large volume of fentanyl in a smaller area, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Fanny
And are
pack
you
can
aware
carry
that
enough
fentanyl
fentanyl
per
to
unit is
support
very expensive?
20, 30 immigrants over the
Honestly.
border.
Yes, I'm not too sure.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't know, I'm guessing,
That's
but
fine with
yeah, a
you,
lot.
sir.
Why
Okay.
am I so hot?
But eventually these drugs, whatever form, whatever type,
Oh my God.
could it be meth,
Sure, yes, ma'am.
cocaine,
Yes, ma'am.
and marijuana?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Marijuana would take up more volume in the backpack, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
To get the larger amount for profitability. But pills are smaller, or powder would be smaller and still come back with a high volume of profitability. Would you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now they're out there. Do you also know that there are people that look out for the groups that are coming through illegally?
Yes, ma'am.
What do they call them?
Scouts.
Scouts, okay? And what, let's talk about clothing and things that you would suspect would be dealing with this type of environment, okay? Again, I'm not referencing anyone crossing an immigrant for the American dream. I'm talking about people that are conducting illegal activity. So would it be fair that lately the clothing attire that's common would be camouflage outfits?
Fair.
So everyone that's illegally crossing without inspection, that's not giving up to the United States Border Patrol, between
He doesn't
narcotics
know that.
haulers and the everyday migrant, they're all wearing camouflage.
Everybody is.
Everyone.
The
Oh,
ones
okay.
that are going to the checkpoint?
The ones that are, well.
The ones coming across the checkpoint, no.
Okay. All right. And so what about the night nighters? Is that a common attire for someone just looking for the American dream? Or is that someone that might be a scout that's trying to get through the border illegally?
So typically the scout wears the binoculars for both narcotics and human smuggling.
Okay. And what about the walkie-talkie?
Again, the same, they use the walkie-talkies, the scouts typically use them for smuggling humans as well as narcotics.
Okay. And, of course, backpacks would be part of transporting something, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And if it's drugs, then the drugs could fit in there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever seen the fanny packs before?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah.
What's the purpose
You can
of the
hide them
fanny
under your
pack?
shirt.
Typically, they're used for being that when, whether it's narcotic smugglers or human smugglers, with migrants crossing, typically carrying a heavy load of food and clothing kind of slows you down. So when we intercept these people, they'll typically run from us. So to ditch their weight, they'll drop backpacks, but maintain their personal belongings like IDs, passports, money. They'll keep them in a backpack that way. You can still run quickly without that heavy backpack of food. You just keep personal belongings on them.
Let's talk about the money. Everyone wants to protect their money first, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so clothes won't matter if you have to run, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But money might matter to that person not to lose that money, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So it would not surprise you to know that a person has a backpack, a fanny pack close to their chest. They could be carrying money in it, correct?
Objection on the question.
Ooh, they lost another one.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think they've won a single objection so far on this
If there is a
prosecution.
smaller quantity of drugs, like say, a bag of cocaine or a full bag of some sort of pills, that could
I think
also
it'd be about a half a
protected
key to fit in a fanny pack.
Yes, ma'am.
If you put a whole key, it'd be a lot. It'd be a really big backpack. I mean, fanny pack. It'd be a larger one. Not huge, but larger.
So, you've got to know a little bit through different contexts, introduction and follow-up communication with Alan Kelly, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And he's always been very, very cooperative in assisting with information to you, hasn't he?
Yes, ma'am.
Very friendly to you.
Yes, ma'am.
He's a talker, isn't he?
Yes, ma'am.
He rambles everything.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, he's a storyteller.
Yes, ma'am.
He's an old man with a lot of stories to tell.
But,
If you
it's
listen,
lonely
he's
out
going to
there
tell
on
you.
the ranch all day long by yourself.
Sorry, guys. I got something in my
And so we probably welcome the communication with you. Would you say that could be true?
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But anytime he saw anything during the time, or at least a lot of times, he texted you and said, I see barbed wire cut on my property, right?
Objection, Your Honor, this is the subject of a previous motion. Communication with the defendant.
Let's
Hey, may
take
listen.
our afternoon recess, about that time anyway, I'll deal with this issue with the jurors. We're gonna take a 30-minute recess.
Oh, they're going to have a little break. Okay, so everyone stand up for the jury and the judge. Okay, I'm going to see what they do here.
And between the defendant.
Okay, they're going to argue this behind while the jury's out of the room.
Your Honor, counsel's about to relay communication between the defendant and this witness. They're offering the defendant's statements regarding events, and the court has specifically precluded any of the defendant's statements that aren't offered by the state because they're self-serving hearsay. And so I ask that this line of questioning not be allowed.
So there's an order that stated that certain communications were not going to be permitted, and the prosecution is feeling a little bit uncomfortable because they believe she's getting ready to go there. Let's see what happens. Right now, they've lost every single objection, and the defense has won it. Probably won't win this one.
And Judge, they're not being offered the truth of the matter asserted in statements. We're talking about communication that has been ongoing between Mr. Kelly and the actually it goes towards Mr. Kelly's state of mind and it just goes towards the general character of communication between Mr. Kelly and the actually.
I'm having a real time hearing her.
Careful to look out for certain things. Mr. Kelly is sharing information with the liaison. This is all leading up to the incident. It's a illustrative of Mr. Kelly's state of mind. And as the state opened the door when they entered into areas involved communication between Agent Marcel and Mr. Kelly, which they did. And in fairness, we need to be able to talk about other communications that happened between Pellet, or Agent Marcel and Mr. Pellet.
Objection was made after the first question, so you really didn't get into the question at all. Well, where do you intend to go with this? How far?
So I have a question with that.
And I'm talking, how far do you intend to go with this line question also? You haven't read that.
I'm struggling to hear. I have bad hearing to begin with.
And but anytime I saw anything during that time, or at least a lot of times, he would text you and say, I see some barbed wire cut on property.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, this is already asked of this witness that they do it, and there is communication to make sure that none of them have cut wires. But this is an ongoing relationship. I'm not trying to get into personal, I'm just leading up to the events of what happened on January 30th, the communication, so I can show.
This is the state of mind.
Showing the cooperation, that he was calling someone that was there to protect him and the environment that he lived in. And I just trying to establish that, but I'm not digging really deep, just on the surface of that to inform the jurors.
How deep are you intending to go with your questioning into specific statements that Mr. Kelly would have made allegedly to Agent Marcel about what was happening?
Well, actually, I would like permission from the court to go into the questions that precede January 30th, warning him of the things that he saw or my client, but they would be literally short period of time prior to January 30th. Because this is what has put him on alert for these items. He's also the one that's educated him about the types of people that are coming through his property and around his property. And that's where he's learned it. They brought up the fact that he called them, different names, and those names came from this person as far as educating him on the environment.
I'm going to reserve ruling on a question by question basis. I have to go to the questions to know what kind of information is being elicited. The state is correct. I mean, the general rule is that a statement by a party opponent when offered by the party not offered by the party on behalf of the party's institutions. So, but I have to go to the questions and specific questions on what's directed. Directed with specific questions.
Okay, they're really fighting hard on this. There's a lot of personal questions and stuff that can't come in. I see where the defense is going. They want to be able to bring in information such as, isn't it true just 2 weeks, for example, hypothetical, isn't it true just a few weeks prior to this event that you had a situation where fences were cut? I don't know, whatever, some things may have happened. And the prosecution doesn't want that to come in. It is very much hedging the lines on the court order, as the judge just said.
The state did specifically object to this question. And just for the record, the state has only elicited testimony specifically with respect to this incident, the day of this incident. We did not elicit any testimony about any other statements. And I think there's sort of a rule of completeness argument being made from the other side, but we didn't go into anything except the statements from the day of the incident, and so that would not apply. And so the state is objecting to the prior to the question that was asked by the defense that's asking about cuts to the fence and things of that nature. Those are specifically statements by Mr. Kelly that the state is requesting to preclude, and that was the subject of a pretrial motion.
Your Honor, I will withdraw that question and only address the things that he said to my client.
Then we're recessed for 20 minutes.
I will be back when they come back. A friend of mine brought me a little birthday cake. So I'm going to go have me some birthday cake. And like I said, I will leave this up and running for you guys, and we'll see you in a minute. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back on. Thank you so much for your patience. It has been a wonderful day, and I've had some people, my hair's not doing wonderful. I've had some people come by and love on me today. Today is my birthday, and a friend of mine, oh my gosh, Miss Kathy brought me some birthday cake from a Mexican bakery. I've already been nibbling on it. It is so good. You should see my little, I set up a little side table. I've got my popcorn, I got my notes, I got my coffee, got my glasses, and I got my cake. I know I am a spoiled little brat today. And my son has spoiled me. He gave me a really good, awesome dinner at one of my, sorry about that, I got to get comfy. At one of my favorite Mexican restaurants. I got to get my camera. My camera mount seems to be a little bit and not very stable. For some reason, it's doing its own thing. So I am going to put a little bit, I thought I had music going. I apologize. We are waiting for the break to happen. They'll be back in just a minute. I will too. Thanks for joining. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are still waiting for court. Let me see what comments are saying. I'm really struggling with my glasses. They've got this stuff on them, makes it hard to see through. But let's look at some comments. Let's scroll up. Everyone's talking about how handsome that Border Patrol agent is. Oh my gosh, y'all. Y'all. Come on now. Come on now. Y'all need to stop talking about that man. He probably married. All right, guys, I got a package arriving. I'll be right back.
Please rise, por favor. Thank you, everyone. Please have a seat. Back on the record, show the presence of the council, defendant, and all jurors. Ms. Goldthorpe, you can continue with the process.
Thank you. I'm gonna rephrase my last one. We've had a break, okay? Okay. I'm gonna reference some communication you had with my client in the month of January leading up to January 30th events, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And, back on January 13th, you told my client that you would pass it along, that there's been a couple of groups out there in the evening this week to the west of you. Remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
And you let them know through abbreviation it was closer to Buena Vista, but angling your way, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So why would you tell Alan this?
For safety concerns, if he was out there working on his property and he saw agents kind of responding in the area, he wouldn't have to give me a call wondering why agents were on his property. It's kind of just a heads up to, if he's out there, no surprises.
And if it gets close to his property, he should seek cover or safety, correct?
Yeah, or call us. If he does see them, give us a better line of travel for the group if he sees them.
And you told him there was a group of, same date, you told him there was a group of 23 and a group of 6, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you also told him some may have had narcotics, just a heads up. That was you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And after communication back, you told him that you would check to see what was going on, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, let's move to January 16th. And you let Alan know that you wanted to give him a heads up. Agents are working a group of 12 to your east near the Tortilla well, just in case they come west towards your place.
Yes, ma'am.
So in your opinion, it was close enough to know that the movement could go that way. It was enough to tell him, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
On January 18th, you also told Alan, sir, there's another group of approximately 8 agents will be working east of you near our camera tower. They may turn west towards you, FYI, just FYI. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you told them after that, immediately after that, you said, since the blimp went down, traffic has increased out there.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain what the blimp is?
It was the aerostat. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was the large blimp that had cameras on the bottom overlooking Nogales.
Okay, and so that was used for surveillance?
Surveillance, yes, ma'am.
And now it wasn't there anymore? How come?
Funding was defunded. They pulled it.
Okay. So once it was defunded and the blimp was there, you made a note that it has allowed or increased more activity since then.
Yes, ma'am.
Now on January 25th, as we're getting closer to this date, you said, sir, looks like they were working a group of 10 that entered at the end of the bollard fence. The group moved north following the fence line. That's just east of your place. Do you remember saying that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm assuming this abbreviation, HELIO, is that abbreviation for helicopter?
Yes, ma'am.
Was out so long because they had a team on board looking to drop them to apprehend the group. Group was never located, though, and still outstanding.
Yes, ma'am.
It's hard to track these guys, aren't they?
It is, yes, ma'am.
I mean, they scurry pretty quick. Is that right?
We do a pretty good job, but yeah, it's difficult, yes, ma'am.
And the response time that if you were to hear a message from a rancher needing, who's reporting activity, sometimes can take a little while, correct?
Depending on where agents are, it could just depend on where they're responding from.
Okay, so where they're responding from and if they're tied up on other calls, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I would assume that you are not overstaffed by any means. Is that a fair assessment?
It's very fair, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you're working hard and long, and it's hard to get to every location quick enough to possibly catch some of these people that are coming across illegally, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
On January 27th, you said just received your text for some reason. How many cuts did you have? So you have responded to information about cuts in the fence line, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did want to know if it was your guys or was it illegals, because if it was your team, you would want to make sure it gets repaired.
With either side, if it's them or us, have repaired, but mainly if it's our guys, that way I can adjust it with the agents that are cutting the fence and not repairing it timely.
And after communication, you told him, yeah, there has been narcotic trafficking picking up around Kino, and that's Kino Springs, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now that was, by the way, January 27th through January 28th. That's just before the events that happened. That brings us to court here today, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So, you can imagine the mindset of a senior citizen couple out there knowing that there's lots of activity all around them, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you could understand the stress that it would cause a rancher out there anticipating whether or not they could or may be in danger, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I mean, you're trained to handle it, right?
Certainly, yes, ma'am.
And not knowing his background, but definitely considering his age, that's a factor for any couple to consider. Will I be okay on my property?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's get into a little bit of January 30th. Now, we got the chart still up there that was used for demonstrative purposes. Let's talk a little bit about that and some of the things that you wrote in your report. But isn't it true, not only did you write a report, but you were interviewed by Detective Einstein, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And would that be the gentleman at the other would have to?
I can do that.
This place. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Detective Einza is at the opposite table to my right at the very end to the right, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the man that interviewed you?
Yes, ma'am.
Did it feel like you were being interrogated?
No, ma'am.
I am
No?
sorry, y'all. I am
So,
celebrating my birthday
when you
today,
talked
and people are
to me,
saying
did you have a report
we're back.
or a memorandum yet created?
Yes, ma'am.
So you had that before you talked to detective.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you bring it with you or provide it later?
I don't recall.
Okay. And you would agree that when something happens, it's a good idea to make notes of it as soon as possible because your mind is fresh with information.
Yes, ma'am.
But you were off.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were at the gym, one of the calls, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You were checking out on another call, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You were with your family on a call, weren't you?
Yes, ma'am.
So when did you get this report created?
Approximately, I started at 0600 the following day,
Okay.
January 31st.
Okay, so you had a chance to sleep, come back into work, and do your routine, and then you sat down and made this report.
Yes, ma'am.
And then, do you know when you gave him the report, the detective?
No, ma'am.
Do you know when you were interviewed by the detective?
I don't know the exact date.
Your estimate was it a few days later, or 2 weeks, what did you get?
A few days.
Few days later?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you being interviewed in the interview room at the sheriff's department?
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, the first thing we see on this illustration here at 2:30 is I'm being shot at and I'm shooting back. Is it very clear that there is a gun out there? Is that statement clearly telling you there is some form of a weapon out there that's shooting at?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So there's no question in mind that there's at least one, if not more guns, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's very clear also that when he states, I'm shooting back, it's illustrated on this, at 2:30 on this chart.
I like her.
That
Good
he
point.
is shooting at someone back, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you shoot back at something, it means you've already been shot at, usually, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's his
And isn't
perception.
that possibly considered self-defense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? You know enough to know what self-defense is, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm on
You
border
do have a
patrol.
right as an officer to apply self-defense for your own safety too, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Waiting for that objection.
So I know we were questioning your knowledge of state law versus federal, and I just wanted to make sure that you understand self-defense. Okay, thank you. And
I like that she did that because that gives the jury a clear understanding of what self-defense is without doing it in the jury instructions. Good girl.
you just describe this demeanor that he had at that time was what? When he got the first call.
Rushed, frantic.
Now you can't see him, right?
No, ma'am.
You have no idea where he's standing.
No, ma'am.
Okay. You have no idea what he's seeing at that moment.
No, ma'am.
But definitely in some form of stress.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if someone's pointing a gun at you, you might want to be rushed in defending yourself, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonder why he's scooting. Oh, he's passing a note.
And in this rush, in this rushed moment of communicating, that's when you start hearing I'm being shot.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, did you have reason to believe that the defendant was at home and his wife was at home also?
Wonder what he's pointing out.
Did you
No, I'm
have
good.
knowledge based on the calls?
I don't need to do
Not
that.
only was Alan at home, but one that his wife was at home.
Later in the after the other phone calls, then yes, he stated his wife was there.
Okay, so you did learn that.
Yes, ma'am.
And as a male, as a person of care, a husband, would not be surprised that one would want to protect his family member or his wife as well, right?
Yes,
Correct?
Okay, and you would want to do the same, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you first learned, there were 5 subjects packed running southbound. So, do you know which direction that is in relationship to the house? Are you familiar with the directionality of the home to the property?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it possible that what was observed was running across the view from inside the house through the windows to the right, from left to right. Would that be southbound?
From my understanding of the song, I don't really know exactly what his house looked like, but from my understanding of the house, southbound would be towards the international boundary. Like, I don't know what is.
Depends on where you're standing, which way you're looking.
So do you not know that the boundary, the international boundary would be eastbound from the backyard of this house?
The international boundary would be eastbound
The
from the
wall.
from the backyard of his house. So I guess I don't understand where his backyard is.
So if the window he was looking at was facing east, then southbound would be to his right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just let's go with direction.
Right.
So, and again, in all fairness, you weren't there that moment,
East,
correct?
headed
Correct.
southbound, they're
You haven't
going
been to the
that
home.
way.
Yes, ma'am.
You
From
haven't
my
been shown around.
perspective. That way from yours.
Not around the actual house itself, needed, but from the home to the barn. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, the youths are claiming that you learned from Alan that these subjects, 5 subjects, were running southbound, and that's where we get that information, correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's what he said.
Okay. And then, and this is 2:30. And did you feel like he had to address the issue at hand? Was he asking for help?
He was stating the problem. I mean, he called me for a reason, so I assumed yes, he wanted help.
Okay. Well, if someone calls law enforcement and says I'm being shot at, or they're counting on your help,
Yes, ma'am.
and did you know that you provided a business card of you as a liaison to this family for them to be able to call you at any time?
I believe I did.
And that would be your business cell phone line?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you later learn the number that you referenced, the APs, the prosecutor reference was Wanda's phone?
I later found that out. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But you didn't recognize it at first, but you didn't take the call.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Because it was a duty phone.
yes, ma'am.
Now, did you get off and then go back on the phone with him at 2:36?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you called your station at this time and or communicated with them that there was a problem of the Indian Ranch?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you wrote in your, it's been reflected that you're stating there was altercation. That's pretty much a law enforcement word, isn't it?
The subjects?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so.
We had a little glitch. I wonder what happened.
They get down in those ravines, and it's hard to track, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then at 5:23, 5:26, you have the array of missed calls, but ultimately you testified you connected with Al, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And this time he's even more frantic than before.
I wish either she would switch places with the other lawyer or stand up because I can't see her face. I'm just looking at back of heads. Driving me crazy.
Frantic or just scared.
Gotta do it.
If they're the same, I mean.
Could shock be part of that?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, ultimately, we know there was a body. But people don't find bodies every day.
No, ma'am.
People don't have law enforcement house earlier report shots fired, and then there's a body, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't they find it the first time?
My client has a big tractor hoe that dig big holes to put bodies in it.
Ooh.
And that tractor.
Snap.
I don't recall.
Yet there's a body found in the field.
So if he shot it, he could have buried it. Nobody would have known. So if you shot somebody, why would you call the police? I love her.
Couple of barbed wires fenced down, and that law enforcement later gets called to him, he shows them where they are, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. She's not afraid to say it.
Do you know where he was when he called you?
No, ma'am.
Standing over the body?
That he might be standing next to the body.
No, ma'am.
You don't know. If he was out there, is it possible he didn't know who was around him?
Point.
Yes, ma'am.
And that would be a reason to be very evasive and scared, not knowing if he was going to be killed next.
Point.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I like this.
You're out there, when you're out in a field with a dead body already, and you don't know who's watching you, right?
I like her.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Construction culture background.
this terrain is
Frame of mind.
very well heavily condensed with trees and cactuses and tall grass, and I mean, it's not an empty field, correct?
No, ma'am. It's not.
Plenty of places to lay down and
Then
hide.
there's the ravines, correct?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
And there is a ravine in this direction that if someone was hiding in there, they could very well be watching him, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Or behind the shrubs, the bushes and things that's there. Someone could be out there.
Yes, ma'am.
Wouldn't that be a pretty good reason to be a little bit evasive
Yes, ma'am.
if he was out
Ooh,
So-
good point scored. Good for
there?
you.
Him, is this an animal?
Good for you.
You started that conversation, if I heard you right earlier. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so there's the communication of, yes, it's like an animal of some sort, right? Rather than a mineral or a vegetable, it was an animal.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you're just trying to get him to talk to you in some way that you try to understand the nature of the seriousness of what's going on.
Yes, ma'am.
You
Fair.
had an idea something was definitely,
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
and you now had an idea that maybe there was a body there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you just was trying your best to work with him to gather as much information as possible so you can help report it.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what law enforcement does.
Yes, ma'am.
But for whatever reason, he was scared to just say, I see a dead man now, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But he wanted help, right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I have to take a pause. Sorry about that. She just scored a ton of points. Go girl. That is what I have been saying all along. Now, once again, I'm not for or against any side at this point. But I have a lot of questions. This was flawless. If I'm sitting on a jury, at this point, you got me.
He left messages, call me immediately, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
He left a voice message and a text message, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Asking for help. Trying to get you on the phone, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
He trusted you, didn't
Yes.
he? And he really wanted you out there, didn't
Yes.
he? You were off, and you have a right to be off, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So the next best thing was just get whatever you can in the way of that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And there really wasn't anyone Border Patrol that was available at the time, right?
No, there wasn't.
Okay,
There's
so
not
the
enough
next
Border
best
Patrol
thing
to
was
handle everything.
Get a hold of supervisors that ultimately got a hold of the sheriff's department, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Trust goes a long way, doesn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
And this was a very scary situation. Would you agree it would have been if you saw that?
Yes, ma'am.
Especially for someone who's
So
not
then
used to it, nor in
5:35,
legal or law enforcement.
He's hinting, it is worse than you could ever imagine. This is bad. He's giving you hints that there's a problem out there, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
There's urgency to this, correct?
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
Please send someone to his house. Is that a person asking for help?
Yes, ma'am.
And we see on here that you were trying to get the information, but it's evasiveness, it's not necessarily a negative thing. It could be for more than one reason, as you just.
Evasiveness is not an admission of guilt.
And then, who knows what it meant by abscess was being reported? We don't know what it meant, do you? It was weird, but you don't know what it meant by that, do you?
He's just maybe trying to get him to understand a crime has been committed.
Well, you are.
Well, you mean for my chain of command, I assumed.
Okay. But he's asking for help, so maybe he wants it. Right? You don't know, do you?
No.
Okay. So in his way under stress, that could be him saying, get someone out here, right?
Could be, yeah.
Yes, sir.
She's leading, and she's allowed to lead
And he
because
said,
she's
"You know how
cross-examining.
shots were fired earlier." He's referencing your earlier phone call, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And your words were something was possibly struck. Is that verbatim? Is that
My words, that wasn't my words.
Those were his.
That were his words. He said something was possibly struck.
But you never told anyone when you reported this that he admitted to striking someone, did you?
Yes.
These are the words you reported.
That's exactly what I reported to my supervisor, that he called me stating that something was possibly struck, so he wouldn't tell me exactly what it was, so you should send agents out there. Mr. Kelly stated that something was possibly struck is what I told my supervisor.
Right. And did you later learn that those words got listed when you said?
No.
You don't know that?
No.
Okay. But these are your words, right? That you are reflecting from him.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is what you wrote in your report.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is what you told your supervisor.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is what you told the detective.
I need to
Yes,
skip
ma'am.
that back, y'all. I need to skip that back a little bit. Ooh, we need to hear that again, because this right here sets up a huge tone for the trial. And she alluded to this in her opening the lady with her in the opening statement. So let's watch this part again. This is critical.
Sure.
But you never told anyone when you reported this that he admitted to striking someone, did you?
Yes.
These are the words you reported.
That's exactly what I reported to my supervisor, that he called me stating that something was possibly struck, so he wouldn't tell me exactly what it was, so you should send agents out there. Mr. Kelly stated that something was possibly struck is what I told my supervisor.
Right. And did you later learn that those words got listed when you said?
No.
You don't know that?
No.
Okay. But these are your words, right? That you are reflecting from him.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is what you wrote in your report.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is what you told your supervisor.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is what you told the detective in the interview.
Yes, ma'am.
And if anything got changed from this, you don't know anything about it.
No, ma'am.
Because that didn't happen. That's not what you said. This is what you said was up on the board, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That is a big point, y'all. You'll see it more later. It'll come
You
into
never
play.
said, I shot or killed someone, did he?
No, ma'am.
Thank
He
you.
said he might have to in self-defense earlier, but at this point in time, he didn't say, I shot and killed someone.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
The prosecution stating he did say that. The defense is saying that okay, I got to pause it before she goes on. The prosecution saying basically he said, I shot somebody. But what happens sometimes is law enforcement, innocently, sometimes not, will inadvertently change the dynamic of what's going on by using a word that influences the statement in a way that makes a person look guilty when they weren't. Okay, here we go.
So is something was possibly struck versus your earlier testimony? Something may have been struck earlier. Do you know which way it came out?
Yeah, but there was a gunshot earlier, so it could be shot by them and not him. From the earlier incident, something may have been struck.
So earlier in your mind was possibly when you got the first.
The 2:30 phone call, yes, ma'am.
Now, you don't know, based on what he saw when they said don't know if they had guns. Ten subjects with, and I'm back at 423 on this illustration here. 10 subjects with packs, all with AKs. First says, don't know if all had guns or AKs. Is that possible that if you didn't hear a word that it could have been miscommunicated?
So just to be clear, he stated that they had AR style rifles, not AKs.
Okay.
And also he said it was too far to tell they had firearms at 236, if that's what you're referencing.
Yeah, we have packs or, so it's not AKs, it's ARs.
AK-47.
Okay, but 423, that's not accurate on here?
Should stay AR style.
Okay. And
I like she's listening to him. Sometimes lawyers ignore them. He's pointing something out that may be very vitally important, so they're discussing it. I'd be covering that mic, but luckily she's far enough to where I'm struggling to hear her so no one else can.
so when discussing whether or not they had these ARs, is it possible that it was too far to know if they all had ARs?
So the only discussion, I think you're mixing up two conversations here. At 423, I didn't ask anything about firearms in my conversation with him. He had stated 10 subjects, they are style rifles. But at 236, for clarification purpose for reporting to the agents responding, I asked him if he saw any firearms, and he had stated it was too far to tell.
Okay, because the word they all had firearms had been part of his communication.
Yes, ma'am.
And I apologize for getting those two things. I didn't create. So, okay.
We're all human.
It's under stress, under the excitement of a phone, and you trying to listen as you're walking out of the station or whatever what you were doing. It's communication's not 100% perfect, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, we talked about Alan carrying a handgun, and you were aware of that at the very beginning in this holster, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Most ranchers do.
Ranchers do not
Especially them.
carry a handgun. I mean, there's rattlesnakes out there, isn't there?
Yes, ma'am.
There's wild coyotes and things out there.
You do not use an AR or an AK to kill a rattlesnake if you have a handgun. You use a handgun, and there are such thing as rattlesnake shots
Correct?
or snake shots.
And what if one of them tried to attack their pets? Wouldn't a farmer rancher want to protect that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so carrying a handgun is a good safety measure on a open range like that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Then there's the other issues, of course. And later you learn from him that he started carrying his rifle, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But that goes with all the information. There's a lot of activity out there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
The witness is being honest. I like it. He's just answering the questions. He's not for one side or the other. I mean, I'm sure he's going to protect their work, but, he's at least answering what I seem to see truthfully. And the witness, and the jury has the right to deem whether a witness is answering is being truthful or not.
More and more agencies are given body cams in recording devices when talking to someone. In this case, there was no recording, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Other than the voice message that we heard, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So this communication back and forth is your interpretation of what you think you heard, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you
To
don't
his
have
memory,
a
best of his
word device to
recollection.
verify exactly the word choice that you choose.
No, ma'am.
And you would agree that word choice can be very important to change the meaning, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I think they're almost done. We may even break. It's almost 6 o'clock my time, almost 4 o'clock their time. So she's passed the witness. Now they're going to cross-examine. Redirect.
I want to start with that statement at 236 that we're talking about. Let's talk first generally. While these events were happening, what were you doing to document the phone call? Anything?
It wasn't until later, I believe, when they discovered the deceased individuals, when I started taking down notes.
So you were taking down notes from what happened earlier.
Yes,
So he didn't take notes as it happened. He took it from his memory, which could be slightly
When you
misleading.
got the call at 2:30, the first call at 2:30, did you immediately go and talk to Agent Jersey?
Via the telephone, yes, ma'am, immediately.
And would that information have gotten relayed through Agent Jersey?
Yes, ma'am.
So that information would have been documented for control at that time in real time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Same thing with the 236 phone conversation, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Same thing with the 535 phone conversation, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You probably didn't call anyone at 423 because there wasn't anything new to report at that time, right?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
And defense counsel asked you about your conversation, your interview with Detective Maine, but that wasn't the first time you talked to Detective Maine, was it?
No, ma'am.
When was the first time you talked to Detective Maine?
I believe it was that evening, pretty late at like 2200 hours.
So you talked to Detective Maine and you told him about those conversations at some point on January 30th, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said 2200, are you certain about the time or is that a guess?
That's the approximation.
Okay. And so, but you did relay all those details to Detective Maine on January 30th?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's talk about the 236 phone conversation. Now, Ms. Lothorpe wants you to speculate about whether you missed a word in the two-parted tell if they have firearms. She wants you to speculate if you said two-parted tell if they all have firearms. Is the firearm issue an important officer safety issue when you're responding officers?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think you would have taken care to make sure you knew whether he said they were two-parted tell if they had firearms?
Objection, speculation. Okay, guys, they're really splitting hairs here. Part of the problem is like the James Marcel, the Border Patrol agent, just said, a lot of his notes were taken sometime later. I don't know, it could have been 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, an hour later. He didn't start taking notes until there was people on scene and saw a dead body. So I don't know how long it took for them to get on scene. I would imagine 15 to 30 minutes, depending how far the sheriff vehicle was and where the sheriff was coming from. But at this point, I believe that the prosecution is really splitting hairs here. And honestly, if I've been on scene and I've listened to people say things and I've had to document things for different things in my life, either as a chaplain or in other situations. And it's really hard this much time later to pick a word like all. The defendant very much could have just said they had them, and he could have, in his mind, heard all of them. So I don't see much why they're giving so much weight to this. I think the prosecution should be attacking more on some of the other points that they had made that were a lot more defensive positive.
Versus they were too tough far to tell if they all had firearms?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a mistake you would have made?
No, ma'am.
They could have all been carrying walking sticks, and from that far away. And I just talked to a friend, an acquaintance, who's ex-military. I can't tell you what he did, but he was, and he was.
Ask you about part of the statement on the 535.
And he said at that far away, so in the conditions, you wouldn't know if they were firearms necessarily or walking sticks, depending on the age and the quality of sight.
Which is accurate, but I want to make sure we have it in context. During your interview, you told us, you know how shots were fired earlier, something was possibly struck. Is that what Mr. Kelly said to you, or did he say something else?
That would have been the most accurate statement earlier.
More accurate does not mean it's
So
exact.
fired earlier, something was possibly struck.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's referring to when he said he was fired upon and he was returning fire.
Yes, ma'am.
If there's gunshots going on,
And by that I mean that he shot at and was shooting back.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Ms. Lothar also wants you to speculate about what's happening around Mr. Kelly as he was talking to you, and whether he was under, whether the nervousness and the scared tone you heard in his behavior had something to do with what was going on around him. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
This woman up here is a Spanish interpreter.
That
translator.
had something to do with that. Is that what she asked you?
Yes, ma'am.
When you were talking to Mr. Kelly and he asked you, is this being recorded? Was that in conjunction with him asking if you were going to send the sheriff's department out at the same time?
Yes, ma'am.
And so those two things together, what did you think he meant when he said to you, when he asked if this was being recorded?
So when they talk about
That's a speculation.
It's responsive to questions.
Do you want me to ask that again?
yes, ma'am.
What did you think Mr. Kelly meant when he asked you if this was being recorded?
First objection the prosecution's won that
My
I
initial thought was, if this is going to get brushed under the rug, like not reported to who may arrest him for something.
And was that the implication you got from his tone and the way the conversation was going?
Yes, ma'am.
And surrounding with the details about him not wanting to.
That's his perspective.
Yes.
That's speculative. That's
And Ms. Lipper asked you if Mr. Kelly wanted help. He did want help from Border Patrol, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And if I understood your statements, you indicated he was reluctant for the sheriff's department to respond. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
the reason
So he
why.
wanted help from you, but not from the sheriff's department.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, once again, let's go back to the beginning. The gentleman on the stand, Mr. Marcel, said anything related to immigration or immigrants goes to the Border Patrol. It wasn't related. He's trying to do what he's told. And some people are very, if you tell me I have to take a right in 50 steps and some people will do it no matter what. Some other people will take a right in 50 and a half steps. He is following the instruction of the ranch liaison in its entirety. Now, I know I had a comment, someone said, well, you're not taking sides, but it sounds like you're taking sides. No, I'm going to punch holes in both sides. So when the defense gets up there and gives their witnesses, I'm going to punch holes if I see them. But right now, what I'm seeing is they're grasping for straws. As an alternate juror or juror, I would not put a whole lot of weight in that part of the testimony.
Now, Ms. Lothar, in discussing this issue about whether Mr. Kelly was concerned while he was calling you on that last phone call, do you know where he was at that time?
No, ma'am.
Could have been in his house, it could have been out of his house, you don't know, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
But you did know that Border Patrol had just been out there, and so had the Sheriff's Department just a couple of hours before, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you knew that they did a security sweep when they were out there, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And they didn't
Can
find the
you
body.
talk to me about the difference between if you're searching a property versus if you're just doing a security sweep?
Good question.
So if you're just doing a security sweep, opposed to, you say that again?
Sure.
Haha,
If
she
you're
tricked
doing
him
an
up.
actual search of a property, like you're looking for something specific versus a security sweep, see if there's any danger.
That doesn't make
So
sense.
for the-
I'm sorry, that doesn't fly with me because you're looking for a person. Period. They could be crouched down, hiding in the grass, crouched down, hiding behind the trees. They're not going to jump out and go, "Oh, I'm here, arrest me." So that to me doesn't make sense. Now, a security sweep looking for a person and searching for a weapon would be two different things. But in this situation, they're searching for a human being in either case. I'm just saying my own humble opinion. I got to get a shirt made.
Searching for something that actually, investigate, ask questions of where to look.
I'll be right back.
Why, where did like a foundation start from, and then kind of branch out from that, where a security sweep would be mainly the kind of everyone moving in one line, pushing in one direction, kind of sweeping the area.
Just to look if there's any threat.
Yes, ma'am, for threat.
And you weren't there, so you don't know what they did while they were there, correct?
Correct.
Could have been a security sweep, could have been a search. You have no idea what they were doing.
I don't know.
Now, you know what Mr. Kelly told you that Wanda saw, but you didn't actually speak to Wanda, did you?
No, ma'am.
So you don't know what her statement is about what she may have seen and what she did not see, correct?
Correct.
So all you know is what he told you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Lothrop was asking you if you somehow thought that based on Mr. Kelly's tone, this incident was made up. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, clearly it wasn't made up, right?
Right.
Because we know there was a dead body there.
Correct.
Defense counsel asked you if you would defend yourself and your wife in this situation.
Yes.
Do you remember that question?
I do, yes, ma'am.
If you heard a shot outside, would you leave your house with an AK-47 and shoot at people you can't see in order to defend your wife, who you left behind in the house unarmed and
I
afraid?
object to the question, argumentative, there's facts, I'm sorry, my speaker's on. Facts not even admitted in there in this question, so, and it's calling for speculation on top. It's a statement.
But I'll have to rewatch to find out what was said there.
Well, let me ask it to you this way. If you were inside your house with your wife, would you consider it to be defending yourself if you left the house to respond to the shot that was off limits?
I mean, I think we do it the safest way possible. I'd probably remain in the home, but still take a cover and you'll still see what is out there, the threat.
You can't do
Would you
that.
leave your wife behind?
No.
Okay, once again, he's a trained professional. My grandpa was had ranch, and I have a lot of ranching and farming in my family's backgrounds. And let me tell you what. One time my grandpa, I'd never forget this memory. We were all in the house and we heard pop, pop, pop. Before anybody knew what happened, my grandfather and my father bolted out of the house, grabbing the guns off the rack next to the door, and were outside in a heartbeat. They separated themselves from us. You can't say what somebody's going to do. You can't. There are men who will storm into battle or storm into something like that. And there are other men who will stay back and stay inside, lock everything down. And, that is a judgment call that's really, to me, should have been objected to. It's cause for speculation. You don't know until you go through it. And once again, he's trained. The farmer's not. The rancher, Mr. Kelly.
Now I'd like to talk to you about the January 27th and 28th conversation you had with Mr. Kelly. On that occasion, you indicated that Mr. Kelly told you he had kept cuts to his fence. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that would have just been a couple of days before this incident. Is that right?
Yes.
I don't get the point. I don't. Prosecution rests. This witness. We're done. Bye.
Now I'd like to talk about the Kino Springs area in general. Could you tell me in January of 2023, well, first let me back up. Can you tell me what a 1325 and a 1326 are?
Okay, wait a minute. When the other side wanted to talk about the conditions and what was happening on the ranch and the history and all that, she objected.
1325 is an unlawful entry without inspection. It was crossing the border other than a entry. 1326 is a re-entry after you've been excluded or deported from the country.
Can you tell me in January of 2023, what percentage of your arrests in the Kino Springs area were related to 1325 and 1326, illegal entry?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance?
I'd say probably for physical apprehensions.
He doesn't have those numbers.
Just the 98% apprehensions of 1325 and 1326 as opposed to other apprehensions of narcotics. So the majority was 1325, 1326.
So
I get where she's going.
1% of your apprehensions in Kino Springs in January of 2023 were drug apprehensions.
Correct.
So what she's basically saying is the narcotics apprehensions were far less than the illegal immigrants. By his opinion, I would ask if I was, and this is, once again, I'm not a lawyer. I am a humble court junkie. I would ask, first of all, I don't know how that's coming in. This is not with evidence that came in. I don't recall, but I would ask, do you have data to back that up? Because that's just a number coming off the top of his head. That's speculation. That's his experience. That doesn't mean that was the overall experience. My humble opinion. MHO.
Ms. Lillard asked you about rib crews, and you explained a little bit what a rib crew is. When's the last time you saw a rib crew in Kino Springs?
I couldn't tell you the last time you've seen a rib crew in Kino Springs.
More than 10 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you see rib crews?
Predominantly on the west side of Nogales, Arizona, like far west, the mountain ranges, out towards Arabaca.
And in fact, you worked on a flex crew that worked in that area, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So rip crews, we don't see in Kino Springs, we see them west of I-10. West of I-19.
Yes, ma'am. They typically operate kind of further away from town.
Let's talk about AK-47 and other AR style rifles. When's the last time you saw an AK-47 or an AR style rifle in the Kino Springs area?
It's been 10 plus years probably since we physically seen them out there, like door through the fence or through the boundary.
Through the boundary, what do you mean?
Like in the United States, not in Mexico.
Okay, so 10 plus years since you've seen them north of the border.
Yes, ma'am.
You see them across the line, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
If you did see a rip crew or some kind of cartel hit, do you see a one shot from far away, or do you see a different kind of scenario?
That's all speculation.
Your Honor, this is directly in response to what counsel asked.
Typically, it's when we see the victims of rip crew, it's multiple gunshot wounds, multiple shell casings in the area.
And do you, if there's a hit on someone, do you see, do cartels try to make a statement?
Yes, ma'am.
And what kind of things do you see when they do that?
I mean, they try to take out everybody they can, and then that group, I guess, that's what they're pursuing.
Would you typically see one shot at the back and a cartel hit?
No, so the rip crews that we predominantly see are those stealing loads from other cartels. It's usually not a hit per se on a person, it's a robbery gone bad, whether they use their guns or not.
Do we see hits on cartel members, other hits in the United States?
Yes, ma'am.
And where do we typically see those?
Cities,
Do we see them very often?
not very often.
Does it typically happen south of the border?
Yes, ma'am.
I disagree.
And if
I
you're
live
gonna
in
get
Texas.
hit
Okay,
on
I got to
someone-
back up. I disagree. I live in Texas. I don't see him. I know he's a border patrol agent in his area. I get it. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on that never, ever is reported. You can't emphatically say what she's saying. I'm sorry.
Is there going to be one shot from far away?
No.
They're going to make a mess.
Right. It's usually making a statement.
Yeah.
Speculative is what I'm saying. I'm sorry. Maybe wrong.
I want to ask you a little bit about.
I want to see an expert on the numbers.
I think you covered this pretty well earlier, but we talked about backpacks. And I think I understood you to say you see the same type of clothing and backpacks for both folks who are traveling here as the defense said for the American dream versus folks who are transporting drugs. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you couldn't tell anything based on the clothing.
If they're
is that right?
illegally entering this country, it doesn't matter what they're carrying. It doesn't matter what he said was. Not through the what I call port entry or the entry points into the U.S. People who are crossing illegally will often have, including the coyotes and the spotters and the people who are paying $8,000 to $10,000 a person to come across. They wear something called carpet shoes. They wear camouflage. Some of them are actually given the clothing to wear. They're given backpacks that are camouflaged, or at least in the colors of the land at the time. Some of them were more sandy during certain times. Some of them may be more green. But they're given some of them. I've done my research. And so this right here is not accurate. That's not what he said. She's starting to twist this a little.
Packs. Does
Making me mad.
everyone carry their fanny pack in the same fashion?
No, ma'am.
You can carry it around your waist or across your body. Some may hang it around their neck, but that's impractical. I just think that they're grasping.
So I think Council said something about people carrying their fanny pack close to their chest. Does everybody carry it that way?
No, ma'am.
What types of ways do you see people carry their fanny pack?
The conditions, sometimes the strap breaks, they have it tied around their waist. They do have it on a strap here. Kind of have it sliding like a satchel. Toss it in the bag.
They can even strap it to their backpack. But this particular person,
So lots of different.
all right,
Yes, ma'am.
they'll get to it. But this particular person, there was pictures of the victim on his phone, Minnie, where he always had it the same way in every single picture. So we'll see that. It'll change. Sorry.
Now, Council asked you about radio. Are there, so we talked about scouts having radios. Are there sometimes folks who are crossing, who are just crossing, again, for the American dream? That part of their payment is that they carry the radio and they say they get people to the pickup location.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that pretty typical?
It's
The pergola, or the patio cover.
Oh, gosh. I don't know what just happened. Ay. What in the world? Let me remove this. Ooh, wow. Let me go back and see what happened. Wow, that's weird. Okay. Why is it marked private? Okay, y'all, that's weird. Let me... That was strange.
All right, we're going to recess for the day.
Okay, there we are. We're back.
Thought this is what he felt.
Oh, no, we're not back. This is not exactly what we were looking for. Interesting. I don't know what happened, y'all. I surmise that we're getting to the end of the day. It is 6:25. They may have cut the feed. But why is it being marked private? Let me just do this. Let me just go back. Close that out. I don't want to see that. Back. Why is that coming up? I don't want that up there. Let's go like that. Why are we researching? That is so weird, y'all. I apologize. Okay. I guess I've been kicked out. I don't know what happened. Okay, we're going to call it a day for now. Let me do this. Recovery. Let's see what he's got.
Yes.
In the chat.
Carrying in their hand in numerous ways.
So lots of different ways.
Yes, ma'am.
There, and backpack with food and clothing in it.
I
Is
can't
that-
show this because it's
is that
somebody else's
necessarily
channel, but I'm
inclusive
trying
of
to
that?
see
No, ma'am.
what happened.
At the time you contact the law enforcement question. So good question, but hold it off the pins. So let me try to get
Okay,
back
so
to
I
the-
think that just cut off. Okie dokie. I don't know why it's marked the way it is. I'm going to go back and look later. That is strange to me. I don't think I've done anything wrong. So anyway, okay, guys. So we learned a lot today. I will join you tomorrow, Lord willing, and we will watch the next day of trial. With that, y'all have an awesome evening. I'm going to go celebrate the rest of my birthday. So, by the way, all of you who wish me happy birthday today, thank you very much. You made it special. Have a good night. Bye-bye.